Good morning. I do realize that we're just about 30 minutes late, but again, we had trouble with our server with the Restream program that we are using. And so I am sitting at home again. Hopefully, soon we will get that straightened out. We've been working on it. And to be honest with you, I'm not smart enough to know what the problem is. And so I have no idea. So we have others that take care of that, and I just operate the program on my computer, and hopefully we can get it fixed, and it will be better then. That's our plan. That's our hope. We have had some things. We did some upgrading in certain areas and added some things, and we're not sure what has affected and what hasn't. So we're praying that this will be taken care of soon, and I'm sorry for any inconvenience to you. And I hope that you can find us and that you will be able to listen, because our goal is to be a blessing. We are going to be talking about in the days ahead the things that have to do with what's going on in the world, and as it relates to the signs of the times, as it is said. What are the signs of the times? In other words, the times when Jesus is going to come back. That is what the signs of the times are all about. And so we're going to look at those things. And the Lord Jesus had a lot to say about that. And so I hope that what we have today might be a blessing. That's our plan. That's our goal, because we always want to be a blessing, and maybe to be able to encourage you and encourage me as well in some things from the Word of God. That's what we want to do. So you stay with us as we get into that, and I hope that we will be a blessing to you. Our text for today is found in two different places. One is in Matthew 24, and the other is Psalm 73. And so I would encourage you to follow along in those ways, and perhaps that somehow we might be able to be blessed together in this. You know, the days in which we're in are very difficult days. The events of yesterday that took place, and then, of course, today, the reminder of what today is. Last night at church, we were talking, and the primary conversation after church had to do with the senseless killing of Charlie Kirk, a good man, a man who was not one fomenting trouble, but he was a man who spoke truth. And he basically, his idea was, you convince me I'm wrong. And if you can convince me I'm wrong, I'll join your side. And he debated with people. I never heard him be mean or vicious. I never heard him call any of the liberals names like he was called and President Trump has been called. And it's interesting to me to notice those things. One of the things that's interesting to me about all of this is how the evil is the one who is doing evil, and they're blaming the ones who are victims for the evil that is done. Well, we'll talk a little bit about those kind of things, because we do understand that things are going to be evil. And so we want to talk about that a little bit. I heard about a man who was recently talking, and most of us, if you've driven very much, you know that you go places on the highways, and there'll be a place where there was an accident, and especially where there was a fatality, and people put up these little shrine kind of things, for little monument things. Sometimes there'll be nothing there, but some flowers will be put out, and sometimes they'll have a marker. Most of the time, people will put a cross there, and then you'll see flowers there. Sometimes they put the name of the person who was killed there on the cross. They'll mark that in that way, a shrine. The man was talking about that, and he said, I recently drove about 2,000 miles on various highways in our country. And he said, along the side of the road, there were many shrines marking where people had died in auto accidents. And he said almost every one of them had a cross. He said, out of all of my travels and all of those things that I saw, he said, not more than two or three did I see that had a Star of David. He said, there's only one possible conclusion. Jews are better drivers than Christians. Well, I don't know that that's true, but I understand his thinking. Today, our text is found in Matthew 24. I want to read this to you, and then you follow along with us as we go through, and just stay with us. And Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. And Jesus said unto them, see ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? And Jesus answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For the nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places. Now, let me just make sure that you got what Jesus said. He said, take heed that no man deceive you. And then he said, there's a lot of people going to come and say, I'm Christ. And boy, have we not had that through the ages. And he said, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Don't be troubled by that. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Just because there's war and trouble doesn't mean it's the end. And then he said, nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines, pestilences, earthquakes, and in divers places. In around the world, it's going to be true. When we read Luke 21 and Matthew 24, we find so many things that sound like they came right out of the newspapers of today. And we read those things and we think, wow, this sounds like now. Wars and rumors of wars. And that's true. One of the things that has intrigued me as preparation for this week's devotional is that the longer we travel in time, the more the same things seem to remain. The disciples are the ones who ask this question, when shall these things be? When will this happen? When is it going to be? When are the stones of the temple going to be torn down? All of those kind of things. Well, when the trade centers, the towers were hit on September 11, 2001, many people thought that was a signal of the end of the world. We know that was not the case because we are still around, and it is now nearing the 25th anniversary. Today is the 24th anniversary of that event. The end that Jesus spake of is the time of the second coming. It is at that time that he will destroy the enemies and the armies of the world, and he will establish his kingdom, and he will sit on the throne of David in Jerusalem and rule the nations with a rod of iron. The disciples, as well as the saints of every age, looked forward to that wonderful time and wondered, when shall these things be? Many scholars will say that there have always been wars and rumors of wars, and nations have always risen against one another. And that's true. It is that way. However, in the day that this was written, there were not the numbers of nations that there are today. Rome was the world power and the dominant force militarily. While wars have always been a part of history, the international conflicts of today are constant. Think about it. There is always talk of another conflict among countries. Israel is almost always on the brink of war or in war with some of those around him. The Arab nations seeking their destruction, wanting them to be taken off of the face of the earth. How sad is that? The African continent is constantly in turmoil and upheaval. The Asian continent is on the brink of conflict over nuclear proliferation and communism. The terrorist things that are coming out of the Muslim countries and others now are constant. But it's talking about Armageddon. Think about this. The list is endless. Killing fields are common, and crime, conflicts with the others, and it demonstrates what is really going on in the world. The fact that all of this is going on does not mean that Jesus is coming today, but that we should be looking for his return. The longer the world stands, the further mankind moves away from God, and the closer we draw to his coming to make all things new. Sometimes we look at these troubles, and I'll be honest with you, it's disheartening. Sometimes we see them and we think, how can this be? And we see it and we just are troubled. I wanted to see for myself, so I checked today. I mean, this day, September 11, 2025, I checked to see about conflicts in the world. Right now, today, there are over 45 active armed conflicts going on. Wars and rumors of wars have been a constant. We have the Russian-Ukraine situation going on, Israel and Hamas, that going on. And there are others even in Asia and on the African continent that are going on right now. And we see all of these things, but Jesus said they will continue until this age is done. The age-old question inherently in us that seeks peace, why doesn't it come? Can't we just all get along? We've all heard that. The answer is no. We cannot all get along. Why? Because we all have a sinful nature, and people have pride, and pride and contention go together. It is one thing that reveals the ignorance of the nature of conflicts to say that everybody ought to just be able to get along. Today is September 11, 2025. It is the 24th anniversary of the terror attacks on that day in 2001. Every person who has memory of that event can tell you where they were when they heard or saw the planes crash into the World Trade Center. I did not see the first attack, but I remember getting a phone call telling us what had happened, that somebody had hit the Trade Center. We turned on the television and were watching when the second plane hit the second tower. It was the most horrific thing I think I've ever seen in my life. Unbelievable. We were just, I can't believe this is happening. Why would somebody do this? Listen, in my lifetime, I remember when John F. Kennedy was assassinated, that we were taken aback. What? I mean, people wept and cried over that. I remember when Martin Luther King was killed, when Bobby Kennedy was killed, and we see these things happen. I remember when Ronald Reagan was shot in an attempted suicide. And people thought, he can't make it. He had just begun his term. He's not going to live. We've seen these things happen. We saw when watching on live TV, when President Trump was in Butler, Pennsylvania, and they shot him right there. We saw that. You know, it can happen. And then yesterday, when Charlie Kirk was murdered, and we look at all these things and we almost say to ourselves, Lord, how long are these things going to happen? Listen, that pure evil is still with us today, and it's going to be with us. And we need to understand that. We just need to be looking up till Jesus comes. David said, it bothered me. I saw the wicked, and I thought about they are prosperous. But he said, I found out they're actually in slippery places. Listen, Jesus is coming. He's going to make all things right. We need to be ready for him. Someone said this, all that is going on in the world today should not make us afraid, but should cause us to look up. Why? For your redemption draweth nigh. Let's look for Jesus. He's coming. Evil in the world, yes, but the Prince of Peace is on his way. God bless you for listening today. Hope you'll join with us tomorrow right here. God bless you today is